Hey everybody, I have a special surprise for you. Yeah, this is Ananda from AmericansInAction.info. And does this girl know about sovereignty and what we're facing right now? And she is going to give you some peace of mind. So I've asked her to come on and explain the beautiful program that she has that really breaks things down into steps that you can take and feel more confident. She makes like a little video. Actually, her and her group of is it lawyers or attorneys? They common law folks that
We're
know what
not
they're doing.
lawyers, we're not attorneys, we're what's called assistants of counsel, which is
Assistance of
the,
counsel, yes, of course.
it's the
Everything's
amendment.
changing
Yeah,
over.
everyone has the right to have lawful counsel. So,
Yes. Okay.
not
That's beautiful.
attorneys.
That's beautiful. But she has like each of them make like these different videos to explain what you're about the step. And then there's a bunch of text. And then there's the action that you take and then you proceed. I mean, it's a great process, guys. And she was trained or learned from David Straight too. And so much more knowledge even on top of that. So she's a wealth of knowledge. And we were just having a discussion about word. We've been talking about words lately. Can you tell them what the word mortgage means? Of
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Amy. I'm super
course.
excited, and it's been so much fun to get to know you and now be on your show. So, yeah, the word mortgage literally translated means death pledge. And so I think that, yeah, if any one of us would have known that we were signing a death pledge, would we have ever done it? And the answer is no, loud and clear, no. So,
Unbelievable.
yeah, the more we dissect words, these everyday words that we use, and we learn what they are, what they mean, what the corporate government world uses to define these words and what we think they mean, and they actually mean different things. So we actually put together the dictionary that could save your life, and it's a
I've got
really
it.
handy. Yeah, she's got one, and it's a really handy little tool because sometimes we'll use words in everyday language and we don't realize that we're incriminating ourselves unknowingly. And so, I try to help people to really learn how to develop their language, know how to stand. And when people say, because say they'll take one of our workshops, which is status, standing, and jurisdiction. And they say, well, what is standing? And I say, standing is something that you develop as you go. And standing would correlate to standing in one's knowing. So when we stand under God, we're standing in our knowing. And so as you develop that knowing within yourself, you'll know what the right words are at the right time, when to keep your mouth shut, when to speak, and then also to know what jurisdiction you're in. People don't realize that we have different jurisdictions, meaning we have a corporate government, which is the one that Mr. B is pretending like is our true republic, and it's not. And one of the words I really urge people to share as much as possible, strike up conversations at the grocery store, and hey, did you know that we're a republic? We're not a democracy. I mean, really basic things like that, because that's kind of a buzzword on a lot of the mainstream media. They'll say things like, oh, hate speech is a threat to our democracy. And then you'll see it like, Project
Mm.
Mockingbird, all the other news reporters saying the same thing. And there is no threat to our democracy because we're not a democracy. So we are a republic. And it's so cool because a republic, you can be 1% and know the truth and still uphold the truth and law and justice. And hopefully, um, we can end this mess by remaining in that truth and standing in our knowing. So the more that do it, the better off we'll be. And I really try to help people to avoid getting into kerfuffles on the side of the road. Those who set out to become sovereign, they might get a little boisterous and overzealous, and that's okay. We're angry. We've been lied to since the time we were born, and our parents before us, and their parents before them. So now we're learning, okay, we've been lied to. We don't want our rights trampled on. I know that I have rights and that I am, by law, allowed to stand for my rights. But we're finding that a lot of people that are going into the sovereign movement are getting into trouble with law enforcement agents. And I don't want to see anyone getting into trouble. And so I don't recommend getting into these types of arguments because these are people, you have to realize who you're dealing with. And if they don't know that they're working for a corporation that has its profits best interest at the heart of the matter and not the people's best interest, if they don't realize that, you're going to look like a combative type. And I tell people I am a non-combative, I'm a neutral body. I encourage people to say that, let people know, because in the courts, in the corporate courts, the way they're set up, it's all based on assumption, presumption, tacit admission, and hearsay. And so what that means is, if you don't rebut claims that are brought against you, they will stand as truth. So we must speak to uphold what we feel and who we are. And we need to declare and decree using I am principles that Yeshua ben Joseph, Jesus the Christ, he taught the I am. And so we say what we are. I am a non-combatant. I am not an enemy of the state. I am a friend and a neutral body. So that dissolves that right away. And what a lot of people, there's been a lot of buzz that Mr. B, his latest talk was basically declaring war again, or saying that the sovereign movement is, or even just patriots. Say you're just a Republican. Maybe you don't even. You're not interested in the sovereign movement. You're just a strong Republican, or you believe in the Second Amendment, or something like that. And what is being said is slanderous and lies, and that if you voted for Mr. T, that somehow you're warring with the current regime. And it's really right out of the Marxist playbook. Accuse others of that which you're guilty of.
Yeah, I was just going to say they're totally projecting.
That's it. They're projecting. And so unless we rebut the claim, they'll keep feeding it as if it's truth. So we must rebut those claims. I am not an enemy of any state, and I'm not a friend, or I'm not a friend of an ally of any enemy of any state. So no way. I am a neutral body. And so, if each one of us comes out and says that and declares who we are, that we're neutral, we're God-loving, we love freedom, for all people, whether we agree with their opinion or not. And that's a beautiful thing. So anyway, and then the course that I teach that Amy is privy to is Correcting Your Status Masterclass. And a lot of folks are really interested in this process. That's probably our number one class right now. And I work with a stellar team. We are Christopher Hartman, Jason Ian, and Madalena V, myself, and we have others as well. But we teach this course, and we've been teaching it across the USA. We do live workshops, and there's also an online version available for folks who can't attend one of our live meetings. And it's a repudiation process that is recognized by the corporate government, and it puts on the record that you can't make an assumption about me. I'm a child of God, and I'm a spirit-filled woman. And in the world of the corporate government, it's actually called Admiralty law, where everything is about water references, and the vessel, your all caps name, which is a corporation. It's actually a dead entity. And so if you show up as this all caps name, and the court or whoever would assume you to be this dead entity,
which is by the way, which is why I'm a private membership association now, guys, and I can only deal with living, breathing souls, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And I joined your PMA, and I'm so happy. I actually got chills. I was super happy when I did it. And I thought, yes, more pleas, more PMAs. Because this is the new way. We're going back to some of the old ways, which is private. And so anyway, it's a hot topic right now for sure. And there's quite a few teachers out there, but I think that the reason why students really like our course is because it's very concise. We give it in bite-sized chunks so that you don't get overwhelmed. And then you can we don't use templates, we use example pages, because as the spirit-filled men and women, we don't do copies or facsimiles. We create everything organic from creation. So your repudiation is going to look very unique to you, and everyone has their own story to tell. So, and it's important because it's actually part of a deeply spiritual process. When you write your grievances out on paper, it can be very cathartic, very healing, and profound, really, to address the ones that you feel have been oppressive and suppressive throughout the years. And so for me, it was just a life-changing experience. And my friends all commented, they said, "Oh my gosh, Ananda, you have a zest for life again, like I've never seen." I was in such apathy before, and I was good at my career, but I wasn't passionate about it. I wasn't. And then once I realized, I was a business broker in Nevada and also in Oregon, and then did a deep dive into this stuff. I studied it about 20 years ago. And then God has a sense of humor, things come full circle. Because I remember thinking, oh, I don't want this to be my life. I don't want this to be a full-time thing. And now I realize it's important for it to be a significant part for me of my life, to learn this stuff, to know this stuff, and to teach this stuff. It's actually a calling. And since doing this, the more I learned that I don't really want to be participating in the world of commerce the way I used to. Now, I still go to the market. I still keep a driver license. This is by choice. Eventually, once there's enough American state nationals, I believe that, the driver license will become not as needed as it once was. And I just, right now, there's a lot of front runners. Yeah, that it's
They'll back
it's
off.
voluntary. It's voluntary, but
Yeah, they'll back out. They'll be backing off when we have a number of us, a certain number.
That's right. That's right. And it's a choice. I've got friends that pulled their license off their car, and they've got their "Don't Tread on Me" sticker. And it's a bold move. And I just don't feel like getting pulled over and having these types of conversations on the side of the road. So, it's a choice. But I think gradually we're going to see more and more people saying, "Hey, I'm not playing this game. I'm opting out. Thank you anyway." Because it's voluntary.
I know someone, and it just breaks my heart what she's going through, but she's in the corporate world. I was in the corporate world too. For a lot of you may not know that. For 20 plus years, I was in the corporate world, but she is in the corporate world, and she's been working remotely for some time. And they are now saying, well, you can come back to work as long as you take the injection. And she and like 50 other employees have come together knowing full well what's going on, because they did some research on the head guy in the company, and he's being paid off by PFIZ, if you know what I mean. Paid off quite a bit of money to basically kill his employees.
Wow.
So they are really going after it. So it's going to be incredible to see what they do when they rise up against that.
Well, this is so, I'm so glad that you're talking about this. So our team, we help people, we were just working hardy for the party the whole time. And when they were threatening, get a jab or lose your job and this sort of thing, we had a slew of people. We were hosting affidavit writing groups for free in our county, just getting people up to speed on how to write their own paperwork and how to address their these unlawful ones. And so we had one gal, Carla, who was faced, her and a lot of others, but this gal had follow through and tenacity, and she followed some of the processes that we teach through affidavit writing process. And she wrote to her employer and said, thank you, but I'm opting out. And she worded it however she needed to word it, with a religious exemption or what have you. And she basically said, you're not allowed to do this, and you can't fire me for me exercising a right that I have. And they were like, oh, well, too bad, we're firing you anyway. And so then she affidavitted up. And then they wrote back with here's $2,000. We're, like trying to, yeah. And then she went, okay, now I know that I've got them because they've already admitted guilt by coughing up, wanting to settle. And she said, well, thank you. I'm not saying that I am going to accept this or not accept this, but I just need you to answer some questions. And then she spouted off some questions that she needed answered before she could decide. And then they came back with $25,000 for her, and which it took her about 8 or 9 months. And this is called dynamic communication. So everything we teach administrative, peaceful, and it's a dynamic communication. And once you get those affidavits going, you can get some remedy, because we've been harmed, and you want to be careful not to use their words. Like injury is one of their words. So as the living, we've been harmed or hurt. And there's so many little things along the way that you want to make sure that as you go, be brave, but don't be stupid, because we're dealing with criminals. I mean, they just really thought that they were going to be able to accuse us of what was it? Disinformation. Oh my gosh, they're guilty of spreading disinformation. And I'm like, oh, this is a nightmare. I'm just really, I'm an advocate for health freedom. And that's as simple as it gets. I want to choose what I put in my body. And I hope that you get to choose what you put in yours. It's like, seems so normal.
So, if somebody's in that position, do they just write your firm, or is there a course they can take that it does all this step by step, kind of like you do with this other one? Or
Sure.
what do they do if they need help like that?
Well, we do consulting, and that's really helpful. We have a lot of complimentary affidavits on the website, americansinaction.info, and you can reach out to us. We do try to respond to every single email, even if it takes us, if we've got a little bit of lag time because we're traveling or whatnot. We do try to answer everyone and be as helpful as possible.
Awesome.
People think that they're going to hire us, and we're not lawyers, we're not attorneys. Like, you wouldn't hire us like you would an attorney. What we do is we teach people how to do what we do. And so we want everyone to learn how to develop themselves, that they can stand, they can write a letter. And we all use checks and balances. Like, whenever I'm writing an affidavit for whatever I need to do to address the court or a fictitious fine or anything that's outstanding, I'll get with my team, and I get 2-3 sets of eyes to look at it and make sure that we're using right language, that we're not jumping jurisdictions. And I think that the Correcting Your Status Masterclass would be great for anyone, for whether you want to become an American state national or not, just so you know what's going on. And you can choose to do it or not. You can choose to participate in that movement if you like. I think it's great. I think there's going to be a lot of great things in store for American state nationals in the coming days. It's just my feeling, because we're going to reach this tipping point.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's like a mass exodus right now. And I feel it in my heart and soul. And let's see, gosh, I mean, just so many people are learning about this, applying themselves and sharing the information. So we're helping each other to grow strong. And the other nice thing about being an American state national, if God forbid you were to get into trouble, you've got like a whole family, like already, that's right there, that has your back. And if you need help, there's resources available. And there's so many people that are standing together now. It's not just one or two, it's millions. It's literally millions. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do you do for a parking ticket?
For a parking ticket.
Do you have before I already know the answer. So before you answer because I know what you're going to say, do you have the verbiage on your website? If not, that'd be a great thing to have.
Oh, that would be a great thing to have.
Yeah.
I usually I try to fly a little more low under the radar and things like that. But everything is an offer. And if people can really get this, really wrap their brain around that, everything is an offer. And a ticket from an officer, a road agent, is an offer. And you have a 72-hour right of rescission that you can decline the offer. So in the case of a parking ticket, I would just simply write offer declined, thank you. Have a nice day. For a jury summons, I would write not a citizen and send it back. Things like that people are just like, they think that they have to participate.
What about jury duty?
Jury duty. I'm not a citizen or offer declined. So everything is an option and an offer, but I wouldn't do the not a U.S. citizen unless you've repudiated your citizenship, and I have, so that would be okay for me.
Which is just the affidavit that you send in.
Yeah, that's the affidavit, and the whole premise of it is based on a Uniform Commercial Code, UCC, and it's UCC 1-308. And what that is, Amy, your viewers, if they can really grasp this is so brutal when I say this, and I feel bad, but it's so important. Public law is owned by a private corporation. Public law is owned by a private corporation.
Right.
So I know. And so under UCC 1-308, that is our lifeline that keeps the Constitution and the amendments and our rights intact, because in essence, it translated, it's all rights reserved without prejudice. So when we reserve all rights, that means all unalienable rights that were granted to us by God. And that because of under UCC 1-308, so when you repudiate, you're going to make reference to that. What happens is the lower law, lower jurisdiction, like statutes, codes, ordinances, rules, regulations, bylaws of the corporation, anything that is repugnant to the Constitution is null and void, number one. That's Marbury versus Madison from 1803. But number two is lower law must yield to higher law. UCC 1-308 is that higher law. That's that lifeline that connects us to all of these state codes, statutes, rules, and bylaws have to recognize the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the amendments. They have to. But they won't do it unless you state that you're doing it. You see, they'll continue to walk on you until you stand. They'll go, they'll just keep assuming that you're under their jurisdiction, under the codes, the rules, the bylaws, and what have you. So that's why you say, thank you, no thank you, but I reserve all rights under UCC 1-308. And you'll hear this, it's kind of a common reference that people make, but it's because it's the most brilliant lifeline that we have right now as we the people, where the admiralty law, corporate law has to yield. They have to. And when you try to get like a road agent to yield to that, they go, oh, you're challenging me. What are you doing? And then the things get escalated. And it's like, okay, they don't know this stuff. That's why they say, okay, go to speak it to the men in the black robes. And you're going, oh, great. What a mess. So you're much better off to just take the ticket, rescind it within 72 hours, say thank you, offer declined, and then you can reference different codes and rules. And feel free to reach out to me. I mean, if you did want a copy of a ticket and how to rescind it, I'm happy to share that with your viewers. So thank you.
Do you want to give your any contact information?
I think if you go to the website, it's going to be great. It's americansinaction.info. And then I think there's like a little email.
Contact us.
Yeah. And it also tells about the online course and different things as well. So
you know what blew my mind too? I mean, I actually had Ron Gibson come on talking about how we don't actually own anything, like our houses or the land or anything.
Ron Gibson's a good friend of mine. You had Ron on the show?
Yeah, you should watch it. It's cool.
I would love to watch it. Yeah, he's Oh, this is amazing. Yeah, he lives like 20 miles from me.
Oh my gosh, he's
Yeah,
so
no,
great.
no, yeah, no. He's like our friend. That's like perfect.
Aw.
He's the guru. He's the land patent guru of the
Yeah.
USA. That
If
man
you
is
guys,
like,
yeah, if you guys haven't seen that, I mean, he does classes, courses, sells a book. Watch that,
I
watch that
love
video that I've had.
that.
Just put in Amy
Okay.
Satori and then Ron Gibson or just Gibson or whatever, and it'll come right up.
That's
So,
wonderful.
and then marriage.
The marriage license, yes.
I read about marriages and I was so blown away. It's a business arrangement and it never ends your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so sad. Oh, okay. Here's another one. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up. So, okay, here's you and your beloved, and you think you're getting married under God, but no, contraire, you got that license. You're getting married under government. And they actually, I mean, it could be seen as interference of a bilateral contract, but because you did it with consent and knowing, you actually invited them in to create a corporation with you and your beloved. And that is making money through transactions, various transactions on the stock market. And, what's interesting, Amy, is when I went in to get my passport, uh, to reflect my status as an American state national. And when I went in, they were saying, okay, have you ever been married? Blah, blah, blah. When was the date of your divorce? And so I went to go look it up and I couldn't find it anywhere. I was like, well, this is weird. So I was married years ago and divorced and, remember it very clearly. And it should have just been there. I couldn't find it anywhere. And I had never taken my ex-husband's last name. So then I just thought, oh, wait a minute, maybe they assumed my name, that I took his name. And so I typed it in. Sure enough, there it was. Bing, bing, bing. So they had assumed a name, created an all caps name, created another QSIP number, and started their whole. And I would have never found this out had I not started doing a deep dive into this. So there's ways that after you have become an American state national, you can go back and redact various contracts and make them null and void,
Oh, you
because
can.
there was not full disclosure at the time. If I had known what I know now, would I have signed for a marriage license? No.
So you can go back. What's that document called to go back and null and void it?
Well, for me, the affidavit is the go-to. It's kind of the everything. And I love the affidavit because it's based in truth, fact, law, and evidence, right?
Right.
Where you tell your story. This is what happened. There was not full disclosure, blah, 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 blah. And you're just stating where the problem is. So any contract that didn't have full disclosure is going to be null and void. And also in the dictionary that can save your life, in the back of it is the 8 elements of a contract. And honestly, anybody could just do an internet search. And this is a universal thing. They teach it in brokerage school. They teach it. I mean,
They're all null. They're all illegal.
Oh,
I mean,
and eight elements of a contract. It's really basic. So like parties. So I'm a spirit-filled woman and I can't have a like party contract with a corporation, an all caps name. Now, if I identify it as the all caps name on my birth certificate, then that all caps name could have a contract with another all caps name corporation like the state. When you see like, oh, the state is the injured party, how can a non-living entity be harmed or what they call injured? And so there's all these little things that if you just look at it, you can make a contract null and void really quick, just on semantics, just on a couple words here and there. You could say, oh, well, these aren't like parties. This contract is null and void. You affidavit up, and then you get a notary to sign, or 2 witnesses. 2 witnesses are about, well, it's from what I've heard, is the same. It equals the same as a notary. So you can have 2 witnesses or a notary, and to vouch for the facts that you're basically swearing an oath. And that's your testimony. That's your affidavit. And 21 days unrebutted affidavit stands as truth. And that's in any court of law. That's admiralty law or common law. Affidavits are bulletproof for the most part. I mean, who's gonna debate the truth? You write it out and you're like, this happened, these are the facts, these are the laws that were broken. Somebody's not going to be able to go back in and go, no, these laws were broken, and no, this is BS. And if it's true, it's true. And you have to be willing to risk everything, or suffer the pains and penalties of perjury. So you want to be very factual in your affidavit, but you can use them across the board. You can do a 1-page affidavit. You can do, 60-page affidavit if you need to write testimony. Say a crime's been committed against you and you've got a lot of facts and a lot of details. So affidavits could be real thick or a 1-pager. I'm a big fan of keep it simple, just quick 1, 2, 3 pages and just get her done. So
yeah, I remember David talking about how there's certain bills that we shouldn't be paying because we're sitting on a pile of wealth. And it's like we shouldn't have to be paying this or that or the other. I forget which bills specifically. I don't know if you know, but he says just write on it. When it comes in all caps, just say, I don't know this person.
That's funny. That's funny. Because, well, and that's what to do. Another gal of ours, who it was so sad. They, I feel so bad for her. Her family, the courts are trying to take their family land, and a summons came in. And the summons came in for the all caps name. And when the gal was asked at the door, "Is this you?" She said no. And she meant it honestly. No, that's not me. And so the gal who was ready to serve her had to leave. She had to walk away. And so, she knew what to say and how to speak and how to stand and recognize that if I say that I'm this all caps name, that they're going to assume all this horrible stuff. So she just said, no, that's not me. And it was true. It was absolutely true. And so the courts will test you to get you to find out if you know who you are, because their job is to protect the trust, the public charitable trust, which was created using your all caps name birth certificate. And that in essence is the first trust. So here on planet Earth, I mean, our first trust is with God. God granted us dominion over the land, the air, and the water. But then we have to trust God in turn. And then after that, when we arrive here on planet Earth, the first trust is actually the birth certificate. And then underneath it is all these other little subsidiary trusts, like your social security number, your first bank account, a car loan, and so on. So it's said that everything is trust and there's nothing that's not trust. So when he's talking about things of that nature, that, a lot of our bills have actually already been paid. But when we don't know who we are, we can't say, oh, you can't act as a trust baby if you don't know who you are. So it's really important to learn about this stuff. And then as you learn about it, I don't recommend, and I don't teach anyone to go after the trust. I don't think that's a wise idea. I've heard of people going after the trust and getting into all sorts of trouble and doing prison time. It's not worth it. Greed never pays. But I do think it would be an important thing for folks to learn about trust and application of trust, because in practical application, beneficiaries can receive benefits from the trust. And so, there's ways to do things that are gentle and not greedy and honoring of a system that was put in place for the benefit of folks. Some folks took it for their own benefit, period. But I'm curious about really the real intention when it was first set into place a long, long, long time ago. I just don't think it was all for this for the greed mongers of the world, so that we could all own nothing. They can own everything and pretend like they don't own anything. And then we're all supposedly going to be happy. And so, like, this one gentleman in a class recently, he said, Ananda, he says, well, what about the Native Americans who were here first and their land? Like, ultimately, nobody's going to be owning anything. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, because in trust, nobody owns anything, right? And we truly are happy. That's kingdom of heaven, but not in a Klaus Schwab kind of way, right? Okay, it's more in the real essence of that. And so, but what I said is this, is if we don't learn how to claim the property, own it outright through things like a loyal title and land patent, and we learn how to do these things to set up ourselves, if we don't claim the land as good stewards of the land, then the evildoers will claim it. They're gobbling it up like it's a Monopoly board game. And they're just going to start routing us into cities. And that's just how that's going to go, because if we don't stand, we won't have it. We won't have it. If somebody's going to claim ownership, let it be we the people under God. And then let God decide what's fair. You know, I mean, ideally, what Klaus Schwab is teaching is advanced consciousness, and he's highly aware, and maybe he's doing us a favor and helping us to wake up. And so I strangely, I had a silent prayer toward him the other night, and I thanked him, because not that he's some great godfather, but because of the Zen teaching of it. It's like, oh wow, we really will own nothing and we'll be happy, but not the way he's,
but not in the way we think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So what are some of those bills that we should not be paying?
I recommend everyone pay all their bills. And what I would do is just do a deeper dive into what a coupon is. Like, if you've ever looked at the bottom of like a power bill, or like a water bill, something like that, look at the bottom and look at, there's two instruments. There's a top part of the instrument, and then the bottom part, there's usually a perforation. They want you to detach it. So start doing some research, find out, what are those coupons? What is a coupon? What are we doing when we're sending a coupon? And when we're putting in our autograph. Okay, so, and then it might be bouncing around a little bit for those who haven't taken some of the basic foundation of the teachings, but there's just really two of everything. So there's your signature, and your signature, I like to say, is a sin with the drop G. And what the signature is when you're operating in commerce, in commercial law or admiralty law, and that's the all caps name. Okay, and that's your signature. And so, and then there's your autograph, and your autograph is a graph of your autonomy. So you're the living. And so you start looking at things like the coupon and your autograph and your signature, and what is the difference? What is the difference? What does it mean when I sign on something? And what does it mean when I autograph on something? And if you're gonna learn this stuff, I would learn it like this. This is, for me, this is like the easiest. So we were out at sea, we were lost out at sea, and that's in admiralty law and the Roman law, or corporate government law, if you will. And then we were lost out at sea, and now we're coming back and we're learning how to crawl and walk on solid land, which is the supreme law of the land. That's common law, constitutional law. And then that's where we develop our standing, we get our bearings. So we're not going to be easily caught up and swept out at sea anymore, because we're getting our bearings and we're learning to stand for our rights and develop ourselves. Then once you've got your footing, then you want to learn trust law. And trust law is the highest law, highest jurisdiction, because that's God's law. That's synonymous with God's law. So there's a saying that everything is trust, and there is nothing that is not trust. That's actually, one of the maxims of equity. And equity defined means fair. So when you get into a court of fairness, you're going to see fair dealings. There's going to be equity. And then there's equity in where something has value. So equitable value. But once you learn trust, you you have the ability to see the living and the dead. And so it's a highest jurisdiction. You know where you're at all times, and it's difficult to get knocked off your center. I'm not saying it's not impossible, because this whole system is set up as a game, and there's a lot of tricks, there's a lot of curveballs. So there's no way we're going to know everything that there is to know, that like the judges know or that the trustees know. But if you just learn some basics about it, you'll be able to know who you are on the playing board, so that you can speak eloquently and hopefully avoid getting caught up in their web, because they go fishing, right? That's their big fishing net, because they want us to participate in that world. Because remember, it's controversy. That's how the corporate world exists, is through controversies. There's always two sides. So they'll say, let's say you get into a kerfuffle and your friends say, oh gosh, Amy, you better go and get a civil lawyer, or this should be a civil case, or no, you need a criminal attorney. I know a good one, and it's all BS, because it's all under the world called commercial law. It's all under one umbrella. And I'm saying, no, you don't have to play under any of that. I'm saying, hey, there's like this whole other world over here. And once you know who you are, you can say, oh, I'm not part of that world, and I won't be participating in that. And that it very much aggravates the judges, because they want you to participate. Because if you don't participate, then they can't
make money off you.
Well, they can't complete their transaction. So in Black's Law 4, if you look up see judge, if you look up judge in Black's Law 4, it says see banker, see postmaster. So they're a banker, and they're wanting to conduct transactions, financial transactions, where you're the commodity. And it's pretty sad. They actually need your signature to be able to conduct their financial transactions. And without it, they're up the creek. So they get very frustrated. I tell people, when you hire an attorney, you're literally signing away your rights. The judge will deem you to be incompetent, even lunatic, because you're an imbecile. You can't speak for yourself. You are so incompetent that you had to hire somebody to speak on your behalf. And because they know how to speak this foreign language called legalese. Well, I didn't go to school to learn to speak legalese, but by the grace of God, I had a natural ability to understand it, and now I can translate it into layman's terms. And so now I help people. I'm like, oh no, don't think that you have to use their big words. That's a whole, when you go into the court, you could literally say, I don't understand anything. And that's a legitimate sentence. It doesn't mean that you're incompetent. It means, no, this is a foreign language, and I'm not privy to it.
I don't stand under you.
And I don't stand under you. I stand under God. I don't stand under government. So I stand under God, and that's that. So, but yeah, they get ticked off, and they want you to understand. So they'll do things to, try to get you to engage. And so that's when you need to stand strong. I recommend not to go into their courtrooms at all, because we have, as children of God, we have no business in those courtrooms. That's the world of Babylon. And so I just say, thank you, I'm opting out, and no, thank you. And then
because it's an offer.
It's an offer, and I try to be kind. You don't need to be a jerk. Always good to stay in honor. And they say the first one to leave. In the dynamic communication, let's say I was handling a court situation administratively, and we're having some dynamic communication, and they're saying, no, you owe this ticket and pay up, and we're gonna send you whatever late fees. And I'm in dynamic communication. I'm saying, no, thank you, offer decline. They'll send it 3 times minimum. And then you send back 3 times. Thank you, but no thank you. Thank you. One of my friends wrote back something like, junk mail not accepted here. They sent it back. I thought it was hilarious. I know, I was like, good one. And then as the spirit-filled woman, if I were to open up something that had all caps name on it, that would actually be considered mail fraud because I'm opening up somebody else's mail. It's not me. So
Wow.
I know. It gets really interesting.
So 2 more questions.
Sure.
What is the godly way to get married?
Godly way to get married is
Just have 2 witnesses?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Nobody needs to autograph off on anything, or
No,
just make it known.
If it were me, I would record it in my family Bible. And
Mhm.
that's the way the Amish do
Mhm.
being born.
Aw.
New baby boy, baby girl, new family member, a marriage. Those are your records. Those are your records. And you can create your own records. You can put a public announcement in the paper if you like. You can, what else can you do? You could do a recording at the recording office and just, it is so. We declare and we decree we are free and we are Americans, and thank God. And I hope more and more just really get this. Oh, here's something else that's interesting. Well, a few more things, but okay, with this whole like pick your pronoun, he, she, him, her, they, we, blah, 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 blah. If we don't identify as man or woman, we are assumed to be persons. And I recommend people realize it's not we the persons, it's we the people, because a person is a corporation. So quit calling yourself a person. And if you pick a pronoun, guess what you've done? You've just divorced yourself from being a man or a woman, which is a child of God, which is recognized by the highest jurisdiction. You basically are giving up your rights when you're not aligning to a description that has been bona fide through the years, through the centuries. So it's okay in your private life, do whatever you want, refer to yourself however you want. But I just want people to realize, like, it's not what it appears to be. Whatever they're trying to sell you, it's not what you think it is.
So you would say, like, I, a female. So you wouldn't say, is that what you would do? Like, how would
I would say I, a living spirit-filled woman, I, child of God, I am a woman. I don't think I'd want to not check one of those boxes if I were in a situation. Well, I mean, like my passport, right? That I'm a woman. So, and then there was a couple things too I wanted to share with you that I thought were really interesting. One was some of the things that I think that the nefarious ones never dreamed would have happened. Okay, so one is this: the 1964 Civil Rights Act was put into place. What I learned is that it was put into place to create racial divide. So it was to help to give Black people empowerment and rights in a way that they could stand, and then that would supposedly create a fight or angst.
friction
Because
somehow.
yeah. So for prejudiced people, they would feel angry that Blacks have rights, and now the Blacks would be like, no, well, we have rights. Well, that creates more controversy. But little would they have dreamed that cut to, the year 2020, 2021, and then, middle-class white girls like yourself and myself, we could use the 1964 Civil Rights Act for discrimination. I've been being discriminated against at the grocery store, and it's against my rights. And so I thought that was kind of funny. Like what was put in place to create more racial divide, and we ended up, a lot of we the people, not just Black people, but a lot of we the people ended up using that for our benefit to be able to stand and to write affidavits, or, you know, in some cases they were using lawsuits, and maybe I think some people had successes in those. Um, in that world, if you're still playing in that world, that's okay. There's no right or wrong way, you see. It's just about getting really aware and then figuring out your own roadmap to success. Like, how do you want to live? And I want to live in the private. The more I learn about this stuff, the less I want to do with the commercial world. So I did give up my licenses in both Nevada and Oregon. I was a business broker for many years, and before that I was in luxury real estate. So and now I'm just like, yay, I don't want anything to do with any fraudulent contracts. I don't want anything to do with any death pledges. I don't want to help my people to sign up for things that boy, the more you learn, the more you read the fine print, it's like, oh gosh, I wouldn't want to sign one of those contracts. So that's one thing. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting, I learned that the Zionists put into place back in I think it was the 50s or the 60s, it's called Amicus. Amicus. And what that translates to is friend of the court. And this is the application that is being applied these days right now to many folks who've been falsely arrested, falsely detained, falsely charged. And it's so sad, but they're facing prison time, and they're facing, exorbitant fines. Randy the barber up in Northern California, I think it was something like a $40,000 bail was set for him. And his crime was barbering without a cosmetology license. I mean, it's getting so bad. And so one of the applications that is being really beneficial, it's called Friends of the Court, where you come in not as a defendant, or a plaintiff, but as a neutral body, and you stand as the living, and you say, I'm a friend. I'm not here to do anything except to settle the matter. And when you settle the matter, you're basically just stating the facts of the matter. And remember, as living, breathing men and women, we don't plead, because pleading is for guilty. Really, I mean, if you haven't committed a crime, then there's nothing to defend. The only time you would want to defend yourself is if maybe if you had done something. You'd be like, no, I didn't do it. And so that's the setup. That's the bait, is that you did this, and now you feel like you have to defend yourself. And in the living, we don't defend because we are in our knowing. And it is, I have committed no crime, and there is nothing for me to defend. In fact, crimes have been committed against me, this, that, and the other thing. And this is this is all based in fraud. And you basically call it out. This is based in fraud, and I'm coming as a friend to address the matter, and et cetera, and so forth. So that's been a really a magic point for so many people. And the more that people realize this, they end the fight, they lay down their sword, they turn the other cheek. And it's like, I'm not participating in your world of controversy. I don't want anything to do with it. We want love, we want harmony. And I wish wholeness upon you and upon all the people, all your viewers. And I think they want us in pieces. That's why they want us to say, for us to be at peace upon us. And I wish wholeness upon us, all of us. So
wholeness rather than
into pieces.
Peace.
Yeah, into pieces. And even this I think this is like the two-horned thing. And I was all, I used to think that was a symbol that meant peace. But now I'm suspicious of everything they teach.
I know. I think we all are. What does that mean? What does that mean?
Right. Right.
Oh yeah, we were talking the other day about how do you say good morning, because morning is mourning. It's grieving.
Yeah,
it's like we don't wake up every morning and say good grieving to you.
Never.
So we're like, well, I say good day, or
good day,
happy day, or
beautiful, glorious day.
So one more question. If somebody's being kicked out of their home, evicted from their home, what can they do to to combat that.
Oh man.
I
Um,
know.
yeah,
I
well,
know someone in that position, and I'm like, oh, I wish I knew what you could do.
there's a lot of things you can do.
Okay.
We know one gentleman who stood for 12 years and he did very well. Um, a friend of ours down in Florida, she's doing very well right now. She had gotten her land patent and a loyal title and had it recorded on a court of record. And then some road agents came in and arrested her for being on her property that she owned. And it was a big mistake. And she ended up going in front of the judge. And the judge recognized it, which was great. But
Wow.
actually, I know I have to follow up with her. It was like 3 different times where she went in. And I thought it was interesting because she was using a lot of common law, constitutional law, and wasn't getting her, she wanted a motion. And she wasn't getting her motion. And she called our team and we suggested a couple of trust application verbiage, and she was able to get her motion. So now I need to follow up with her and find
Okay.
out what happened. But yeah, there are things that people can do, but you want to set yourself up as beautifully as possible to get it on the record that you did pay your bills on time, or this contract was based in fraud based on X, Y, and Z, but you better have your evidence and you better know how to stand, because
Yeah.
otherwise they railroad you. And railroad is a term where they will
Threatening,
basically badger you,
bullying.
intimidate you, bully you to a predetermined outcome. And there's not a lot you can do when you get railroaded. It's so brutal. It's like that. I remember one time years ago, Amy, I went and stood in court, and this is before I learned any of this. And it was a small claims, and I won. I did well. I spoke, and I didn't hire an attorney. And I remember every time I opened my mouth to share the facts of the matter, the judge would just talk all over me. He was interrupting me the whole time. And I thought, my God, I can't even tell him what happened. Like,
Wow.
how is he going to hear my case? And I thought, oh, they do that whether you're a plaintiff or a defendant. It doesn't matter. They will talk over you because they don't really give a crap what you have to say. And I didn't
Right.
know that. I was like, why is he being so disrespectful? And even then I still won. But and it was funny because I was always pretty boisterous and bold even back then. And I remember he messed up on one of his addition on the receipt. And I wrote to him on his personal email and said, yeah, and your math is wrong. He's like, I'm not changing it. I'm like, and he was like, you can't be writing me here. I'm like, it's just stupid stuff, but little things like that is like, gosh, you can't even do math right. It's funny. And then sadly, there was no recourse. So there was a guy who had dug halfway down on our property on a well and stupidly paid him cash up front. And like he basically like ruined the land, like didn't get the well. And, I was out all this money. And then after that, it was, oh shoot, I forgot what my point was. There was a point to that. Anyway. But
So do you have any final parting words for the audience here?
Yeah, just celebrate the fact that more and more people are recognizing that we are God's spirit-filled souls, and that we are growing in numbers, and we are the light, and we are strong, and God has made us resilient. One of the ways that the communist regime wins is they want us in apathy. And so the system is designed to pummel us down to where we don't do anything. But if you can realize that through dynamic communication, through administrative processes, God gives you enough time that you need to be resilient, to go back to the drawing board, to give yourself enough time for proper sleep, to be able to phone a friend, to be able to cry it out, to be able to get your research done, and then go back to the drawing board and get your friends to look at your documents. And with this, yes, there's great courage that is needed, but it's not as hard as if like you were going to go and stand in a courtroom. And
Oh, that's
so,
for sure.
you know, and you can write an affidavit to anyone who's trespassed against you. So I would say, you know, be an American in action and get busy, because this is beyond Nuremberg 2.0. I mean, there's so many crimes. This is genocide. People being coerced to get a jab, and I mean, people's livelihoods being ruined, and I mean, it just goes on and on. The suicides, and my heart just breaks over the tragedies that have occurred over the last few years. But yeah, write your grievance and call out the one who's harmed you, and you can do it. And then form little gung-ho groups, because that's what we do in our community. We get together and we help each other, and we're creating the new world. That it's the birth of the new earth, and it's all about community and helping one another. And join more PMAs like Amy.
Yes, yay.
Join Amy's PMA.
And you
It's
know what,
awesome.
too, guys, if you want to, we can have like a forum. I have a forum when you join the PMA, and we could actually make a category where we're talking about these types of things and discussing it between each other. So as we're all learning all of this, we can be like, hey, I remember that word means this. And when you go into a court, you should this, or when you get a summons, then here's how we could totally spot each other and be there for each other.
Yeah.
Once we have like a lot of people that are learning all this stuff, we can totally bounce off of each other in that forum. So I'm really looking forward to that forum getting bigger and us being able to exchange information.
Yeah.
So, yay. Thank you so much for coming on here and explaining all that you're about and all this wonderful information. You've been such a huge help. I know everybody's going to love what you had to say today.
Thank you
so
much.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate being on here, and it's so good to connect with you. And thank you so much, and God bless you.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye. Hey guys, we just wanted to pop on real quick. We got to talking after we made the video, and she just wanted to add something to this for you guys to know about. Go ahead.
Oh, great. Yeah. So one of the red flag words right now, it's a buzzword. It's called sovereign citizen. Now, just remember that there's no such thing as a sovereign citizen, because sovereign means free. And citizen means municipal servant. So you cannot be free and a servant at the same time. So it's one of the buzzwords that has been put out to the road agents. And even the word sovereign is actually a red flag word right now. So just be careful with your language. I usually say I'm a child of God, and I love goodness and harmony. And these things are really proper and appropriate. But don't ever accidentally call yourself a sovereign citizen, because that's a made up word, and it doesn't even make sense, because you're free.
And you can't call at which point can you actually call yourself a state national when you have the passport?
Yeah, well, you can call yourself an American state national as soon as your repudiation has been sent off to the Department of State. So when you send it off, you're going to be sending it registered mail. And when you send anything registered mail, you're creating your own court of record. So it's as soon as it's mailed off, it is so. So yeah, you can use the word American state national, but also American state nationals might be on a list right now of red flag type people. And I think just because they're keeping an eye on us to make sure that we're peaceful people, we're non-combative, and that we are truly walking our talk as God-loving children of goodness and harmony.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Is there anything else?
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I could always keep going. Let's see. Yeah, just don't call yourself a person. Don't call yourself a sovereign citizen. And I like to use trust language. Oh, and if somebody was going to ask you your name and they're referring to the all caps name, I would respond like this: I am known as Ananda. I don't say I am Ananda. I say I am known as Ananda. Friends call me Ananda. You can call me Ananda. and that helps.
Okay. So don't let them get away with calling you your full name.
Right. If they call you your full name and you answer, you might accidentally put yourself under their jurisdiction. So that's why if somebody calls out your name, just you could say, I'm known as, and then say your name, which is fine. And then one of the things that American
And only your first name?
Well, it depends on where
of
you
the
go.
house
If
of.
you use a middle name, you can use a middle name. And then just on that note, many American state nationals will put a hyphen between their first name and their middle name. That's their family name. And this is a way to differentiate between the all caps name and their family name. And then the colon after the middle name, you'll see is used often. It literally translates to the word of. So when you think of Queen Elizabeth, we think of Elizabeth of Windsor. So as royalty, yeah, I know, right? Amy of Satori. So Amy of the House of Satori. And
awesome.
it's you're going back into your royal roots and your royal name. And that cannot be confused with the all caps name.
And with your purple pen.
And with the purple pen, I love
spirituality.
Yes, yes.
Now, isn't the signature, isn't it like, let's use, well, okay, so it'd be like colon, your first name, hyphen, your middle name, space, or colon, space, last name.
Yes, there's different ways of doing it. I've seen different schools of thumb where they put the colon before the name and then again after. For myself, I usually just put first, middle, and then colon and last name. And I do title caps.
You leave the colon in front of the first name off.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But it's just personal choice. I'm sure there's.
I'm going to put it on the screen just so you guys can see an example.
I like that.
Yeah. Awesome.
I like it. Yay! Hope this helps.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.